Thank you so much for everyone coming out. Thank you for Evangel for inviting me to this. I'm new to the Richmond area. I've only been here for a few months, but everything that I see here happens in my community. So I mean, if I'm this close to the Capitol, a bus ride or a walking distance, and I can fix it here, that means I can fix it for back home too. See if I can scroll and talk at the same time. Political participation begins at an early age with mock elections in secondary school, as well as races for student government as the premise to the democratic society we live in. The right to vote becomes available at the age 18, yet so many people in this demographic still choose not to vote. Most people only know of presidential elections. However, like she just said, there are elections that happen literally every year, sometimes twice a year. November the 3rd, there's election for delegates, sheriffs, and state senates, just to name a few, that will be being held. Exercising your constitutional amended right cannot be done on social media. The only people who read those thoughts are your friends and potential employers that have a preconceived disposition about you already due to your color. This is a notice. Be aware of what you post. We need to be rehearsed in our constitutional and civil rights. That does not mean to become a street side lawyer when confronted by enforcement. An informed citizen knows their rights and how to exercise them. We need to learn to encourage others around us and to seek information. So when civil injustice happens, we can handle it within the law safely. The hashtag Black Lives Matter can only go so far. You have to know how the law protects your Black life, how the people enforcing the law, how they need to be trained safely to apprehend Black life if necessary. And those protesting need to effectively convey the message that we demand the laws to be changed that don't protect the Black life. Student activism is an established and effective means of protest. Revolution in countries around the world are led by college-educated middle-class people between the ages of 18 and 29-year-olds. And these are oppressive regimes. We live in a democratic society where government should be transparent and government officials should be held accountable for their actions. We have failed by doing this, myself included. We rage over hiring practices, civil injustice, access to healthcare, as well as institutionalized racism. Yet, we aren't marching, we aren't writing letters, or occupying space in protests. Your involvement doesn't have to be radicalized, but it does need to be effective. The next MLK, Du Bois, Assata, Harvey, or Malala can be amongst us. We just need to uplift and encourage the change and revolution. Albert Camus said, "I rebel, therefore I exist." Among his many views of breaking the social norm, this sticks out to me due to the fact that we aren't heard or recognized until we act out. We have a cause to act out, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We do have someone in the audience from Legal Aid Justice Centers, mass incarceration, raised for 15. Make sure you reach anybody in the audience that has any kind of information that they can hand to you. Next, we're going to hear from Ms. Candace Lucas, and she's going to come from the Dignity in Schools campaign and talk about our school to prison and some other things with our students here in Richmond and the surrounding areas. So give Candace a hand.
Good afternoon. I'm actually with Advocates for Equity in Schools with Lorraine, and we are part of the organization, the national organization, Dignity in Schools. I just want to let you guys know something. If you don't know, there's a crisis going on. If you don't realize it, there's a crisis going on. And there's a crisis that spans from our children, pre-K, all the way up to our seniors. And I'm talking today about the issue that we have a crisis of disenfranchisement and community push out from schools, from police stations, from any institution that denies us our rights. I get very, very frustrated when we don't realize that we're in a war. We're in a war. And the first step to realizing you're in a war is understanding that if you don't choose a side, the side is chosen for you. So that's where we are right now. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir right now. When we talk about the school to prison pipeline, specifically in localities like Henrico, Chesterfield, as well as Richmond City, because just because they look like us doesn't mean they're going to protect us. It doesn't mean that. So when we're talking about the school to prison pipeline, we're strategically talking about a systematic process of pushing our people out of opportunities, of futures, of training, of anything that's going to put them on a level playing field. And what we're doing, specifically in Henrico and Chesterfield and places like that, is that we're organizing and we're speaking out. We're speaking out, whether it's at the school board meetings, whether it's at any type of board of supervisor meetings, whether it's sending emails, we are speaking out. And my thing is that if you're on social media, you have a voice. I consider the internet to be the poor man's revolutionary area. You can take a web page on Facebook and start a revolution. The Egyptians did it. When their government blocked out all of their communicational means, they took to Facebook and they started a revolution that overthrew their government. We are in a crisis. And a lot of people say, oh, you're overreacting. When I walk into a classroom and I see that there are black children that can't read that are about to graduate, that's a crisis. When I walk into any type of juvenile facility and I see a majority of those children look like me and are almost as low as 9 years old, that's a crisis. Now, we can continue to keep our heads in the sand and not be vigilant and not be revolutionary about it, but we know that power is not going to concede without a fight. If you expect them to say, oh, here are your rights, we're sorry we deprived you of your rights, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We have to be vigilant, we have to be bold, and we have to be fearless. If we want to take what's truly ours, we have to operate in that capacity, know our rights, know what we're supposed to be doing, and stand up for our children. Now, what I encourage each of you to do, and I have to speak to this on October 30th, right down the street at the Richmond Omni, we will be having a protest against the NAACP. I know that's probably unheard of, but we will be protesting the NAACP for their indifference and their lack of support regarding our people and the fact that they're laying in bed with our oppressors. So they're having their state convention. And the governor will be speaking. So we're going to be outside protesting the NAACP because it's time to hold those that claim to advocate for us accountable. If you want to come, we're going to be there at 11:30 until 12:30. We will have our children there, we will have our families there, and we will be speaking out. The next day, we will be protesting again, the same location at noon. And we will be protesting because the president of the NAACP, the national president, will be there, Cornell Brooks. And we want to get his ear. He doesn't get to ignore us anymore. So anyone who's interested, on Friday and Saturday of this upcoming week at noon over at the Richmond Omni, we will be there. We will be protesting our own to hold us accountable, to hold ourselves accountable. So I encourage all of you to get involved. One voice can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Next, we're going to have Ms. Jaree Thomas from Legal Aid Justice Center, and she's going to give us some information that kind of ties in with New Majority and what Ms. Lucas has said. So give her a hand clap.
Hello everyone, my name is Jaree Thomas. I'm an attorney with the Just Children program at the Legal Aid Justice Center. With Just Children, we directly represent low-income children and families experiencing issues in education, juvenile justice, and the foster care system. I focus specifically on youth who are incarcerated in Virginia's juvenile prisons. I'm here today to talk about a campaign. It's a new campaign that was launched October 1st, the start of Youth Justice Awareness Month, which is this month of October. It's called Rise for Youth, Reinvest in Supportive Environments for Youth. And the main focus of it is that we need to reinvest money away from our large juvenile prisons and into community-based alternatives to incarceration and community-based services that can help prevent youth from being incarcerated, that can serve as alternatives, and that can support youth when they're returning home. As you heard earlier from Lorraine and Candace, we do have a crisis of young people being pushed into the juvenile justice system. And so Rise for Youth is about really directly addressing that through telling legislators and others that we need to fund our communities and not the prisons. Right now, Virginia spends over $130,000 per year for one youth who is incarcerated in a juvenile prison. Let's just say they spend a lot less on kids when they're not incarcerated, but we think that should be different. We think that should be changed. So I have a petition here if you're interested in signing it. Also next week, Thursday, October 29th, we are having a town hall dialogue with the director of the Department of Juvenile Justice, we have asked that youth and families come and speak directly to Director Block about what needs to be done to improve the juvenile justice system, to transform it. We also have a march on November 6th, Friday, November 6th. That's a part of the Performing Statistics Project. If you haven't heard of it, it's a project at Legal Aid, that Mark Stranquist at Art 180, which is close by. We work together, and we work with youth from Richmond's detention center. This past summer, they were allowed to leave their detention center and come and work with us and create art related to their experience with the school to prison pipeline and with the juvenile justice system. And the artwork that they created is up at Art 180, and it's going to be up, and it's going to be a part of the conversation that we have with the director of the Department of Juvenile Justice next week. So if you want any more information about anything that you've heard, if you want to be a part of the Rise for Youth Coalition, please come and see me. I'm happy to chat with you more and to give you more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaree. This is the reason we're out here. So if you see people and they say anything that triggers you and it's something that you're working on, make sure you guys connect. Don't forget the red shoebox, name, email, an issue or a concern. I'll be sure to email you all. Next, we're going to hear from Kendall Crawford on environmental justice from the Sierra Club. So give her a hand clap.
Thank you so much, Evandra. And she's also given me permission to lead us in a few chants. I was listening to all of our great speakers, and I was thinking, oh, you know, you have to have chants at a rally. So I hope you all will join me. So I'll say, show me what democracy looks like. And then I hope you all can help me, because the response to that will be, this is what democracy looks like. So show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
That was a good practice. That was good practice. We're gonna have to turn it up to about 11, okay? Okay, so here we go. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Okay, round of applause. Thank you, everyone, for So, as Evandra said, my name is Kendall Crawford, and I'm the Richmond community organizer with the Virginia chapter of the Sierra Club, which is the nation's oldest and largest grassroots environmental organization. A big thank you for allowing me to speak today. I just want to start off by saying that we know that the same communities facing discrimination and facing voter suppression are the exact same ones facing the worst environmental injustices. When our voices are silenced by attacks on the ballot box, our democracy suffers, and so does our ability to address big issues like the climate crisis. Right here in Richmond, we are already feeling the impacts of climate disruption, from the declaration of Shockoe Bottom as a disaster area from Tropical Storm Gaston in 2004 to the breaking of local heat and rainfall records. We cannot let our city, currently the #2 top asthma capital in the US, to further endanger public health, especially for asthmatics and allergy sufferers like me, by ignoring predicted decreases in air quality due to climate change. The National Climate Assessment released last year announced that children, the elderly, the sick, the poor, and communities of color are the most at risk of the negative health impacts of climate change. Climate change is raising the global average temperature, increasing heat waves, and disrupting the climate in a variety of ways. For instance, we are seeing stronger storms, like Hurricane Patricia, which was, for a time, the most powerful storm ever recorded in the US by our National Hurricane Center, and that's threatening our neighbors to the south right now. 2014 was globally the hottest year on record, and 2015 is on track to beat last year. The Urban Climate Lab at the Georgia Institute of Technology has found Richmond to be in the top 20 most rapidly growing urban heat islands in the US. And now an urban heat island occurs in urban built-up areas. Basically, they stay warmer than rural areas because of human activities, buildings, and pavement that all create and hold heat in. And of course, climate change is expected to make them worse. But this is especially a problem for folks, of course, who live in the inner cities. So these urban heat islands increase chances of illness and of death. For example, the University of Southern California has found that for every 10-degree Fahrenheit increase in temperature, there's almost a 3% increase in deaths from stroke and heart attacks. So we have a moral obligation to act for our children, grandchildren, and future generations, not to mention ourselves. We cannot afford to let climate change amplify our health risks, which is why I'm so happy that the Obama administration has already finalized the Clean Power Plan, which is our nation's first ever rule to reduce carbon pollution 32% by the year 2030 from our power plants. I would encourage you to sign one of the pink petitions I'll be circulating because as I'm speaking right now, we're facing attacks in Congress to kind of take away this wonderful standard, this vital standard that's been finalized. Well, to conclude, to change everything, we need everyone. And when everyone can participate in a democracy, interests of everyday Americans, like protecting access to clean air, clean water, they're heard and better policies are made. Our votes are our voices, and when those who care about protecting the health of our families and our planet are allowed to participate in our democracy, we can build a healthier planet for generations. Thank you.